Hi, welcome to NY Farmhouse. I'm Leanne, and today we are making New York Style Cheesecake. If you're new to my channel, I do cooking and baking from scratch, canning and dehydrating videos. If that interests you, feel free to subscribe to the channel. And if you find value in this video, please hit the thumbs up. It really helps my channel to grow, and I sure do appreciate it. Now, making New York Style Cheesecake, I've been doing this 10 years. Since I started dating my husband. He just loves cheesecake, and so do I, and I thought, how hard could it be? Well, I've learned a couple things over the years. Granted, any cherry pie filling will just cover it up, and who would know the difference, right? My husband likes it plain. My mother-in-law likes it plain. So I've learned a couple things over the years just to make sure my cheesecake doesn't crack. Today, you're gonna have the do's and don'ts of making cheesecake. Let's get started, shall we? Let's talk about the crust. It's traditional just to use graham crackers and crumble them up in a food processor or a high-speed blender. But have you ever tried pecan sandies or shortbread? And I've even not have enough graham crackers, so I substituted Ritz crackers, believe it or not, and no one knew the difference. Alright, tip number one about preventing cracks. You want to make sure your pan is well greased. You don't want any batter sticking to the edges and pulling away from the side of your finished cake, causing it to crack. I use parchment paper on the bottom of my pan to make it easier to serve later or easier to sell and be able to take it out of the pan, because I want that pan, because sometimes the pan doesn't come back and we need to keep it in my house. Then we're going to grease the pan and the paper again for good measure. To the 20 graham crackers, we're going to add a 1/4 cup of sugar and a stick of butter and a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. And we're going to mix to combined and make sure the crumb is well moist. Then we're going to take our crumb batter and put it in the bottom of our pan and press it in till it's nice and firm. Next, I'm going to put my crust in the freezer until I'm ready for it. I don't pre-bake mine. What's the point? It's going to cook anyhow, so it's going in the freezer. At room temperature, you'll need 4 blocks of cream cheese. Philadelphia is the best, or you just need a high quality cream cheese. And 4 room temperature eggs from the farm is best. A can of sweetened condensed milk, or if you can make your own that's not terribly sweet, you can do that. A 1/4 cup of freshly squeezed lemon juice if you have that as a possibility, but bottled you can do. 3 tablespoons of flour and a dash of salt. Before we begin, I don't bake mine in the oven. For one, I don't have a pan to put my springform pan in that's large enough to hold water and hold the cheesecake at the same time. So this is what I do. I use a turkey roaster, water in it, and then I have these rings sitting in there to hold my cheesecake up in. We're gonna warm this up to 300 degrees until we're ready for it. Tip number 2, your cream cheese, your lemon juice, and your eggs should all be at room temperature. And the eggs, to get them to room temperature, I just put them in warm water for 10 minutes, and that takes the chill off them. This kind of batter cannot be mixed by hand. You have to use a stand mixer for this batter. So you want to add your softened cream cheese and your condensed milk to the bowl, and we're going to mix well for 5 minutes. You will need to add the splash guard for this, folks. It might get messy. You want to cream the cream cheese and the condensed milk well, and make sure you scrape the bowl a couple times just to make sure it's all incorporated. You do not want white streaks in your cheesecake. Alright, we're going to add our smidgen of salt. I'm going to do maybe 1/8 teaspoon. Then we're going to add our lemon juice. Tip number 3. You want to add your eggs one at a time until well combined. Don't mix the eggs longer than you have to, because you'll be incorporating air into your batter and the air will cause the cracks. You want to add your flour, and I used a little sieve and sifted it in just to make sure there was no lumps. Now, I find with KitchenAid mixers that sometimes the paddle will not reach the bottom of the bowl, so just manually try to scrape the edges. That cream cheese does get incorporated even if you've scraped it a couple times with an individual scraper. I can't stress that enough. Tip number 4, you want to use 2 sheets of aluminum foil and wrap your pan up tight just so no water tries to get into the pan. I just take the 2 pieces of foil and crumple them together so they don't fall apart on me, and just make sure the foil doesn't go inside the pan. Wow, just look at that. That is so beautiful. That luscious cream there. Oh. You just want to smooth it out like you would any other batter and wash your hands. Tip number 5. Most springform pans come in a set, so you want to set the smaller one inside the bigger one and ensure your cheesecake doesn't swim in water during the water bath. Tip number 6. Even if the recipe doesn't call for a water bath, the humidity while baking will prevent your cheesecake from cracking. Make sure your oven roaster has at least 1 or 2 inches of water. Place a lid on your roaster and we're going to bake at 300 degrees for 55 minutes. And if you're a returning subscriber, you'll notice my stove got fixed. We had to purchase a new overlay for my timer setting since I wore it out. When the timer goes off, you're going to turn off the oven and just tilt the lid to the side for an hour. Then in the next hour, you want to take your lid off. You want to gradually cool down your cheesecake to a room temperature. And that would be tip number 7, to gradually cool it down to room temperature to prevent cracks. Insert B-roll right here, except it's not going to move or dance for you. Tip number 8, you want to make sure you let the cheesecake cool completely before you saran wrap it. The condensation that it might cause would not be good for your cheesecake overnight. Cheesecake is best served after it's been chilled at least 4 to 8 hours. It is the next day and we are ready to cut into this thing. Now notice how the cheesecake is not attached to the outside ring. That is because we well greased it. If you make this for a certain occasion and you have leftover cheesecake, you can pre-slice it and freeze it and thaw it out when you want a piece of cheesecake. And if you made it this far into the video, I thank you very much. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, my husband's true comments about my cheesecake.
Very good cheesecake.
Thank you for stopping by the farmhouse today. I sure do appreciate your support. And here's another great video that you might enjoy from me. Take care and God bless, and see you in the next one.